Hi, I'm Tim from the Marathon Mates. 2 years ago, we commenced the Flying Runr podcast with the sole aim of sharing our running stories and inspiring others that they too can follow in our footsteps and achieve their running goals. On this episode, we're going to celebrate our second birthday. Yep, who would have thought this little podcast would have made it all the way to 2 years old? At the same time, we're going to relive our adventures from this weekend's Gold Coast Marathon weekend. We'll share our highs and lows as we recap one of Australia's biggest running festivals. We've got the experience and the knowledge to answer your questions, as we are the only podcast with 4 6-star World Marathon Major medalist co-hosts. This is the Flying Runr podcast. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the Flying Runr, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Flying Runr. I'm Tim from the Marathon Mates, and this is episode number 105. It is also our second birthday show. Who would have thought we would have made 2 years old? Whoop, whoop. We started this show immediately following the 2023 Gold Coast Marathon weekend, and since then this podcast has grown to have listenership all over the world. In that time, we've had 35 guests appear on our show and share their running journeys and knowledge. We've gone from 3 hosts to 4 hosts. And along the way, we've learned a little bit from each other. We've got our 6-star medals. We've traveled the world and we've shared our running stories with you. So tonight, we're going to celebrate our second birthday, whilst also recapping all the highs and lows from this year's 2025 Gold Coast Marathon weekend. But before we do any of that, let me introduce you to my marathon mates, my co-hosts tonight, Lucia, Tony, and of course, my better half, Tara. Guys, welcome to the show. And more importantly, for Tony and Tara, let's start it off. What was your earliest memories of, or your best memories of episode 1, which was now 2 years ago? I'll start with you, Tony.
Yeah, I can't, to be honest, Tim, I can't even remember what we talked about that very first episode. So I know you've got a little tip in there in the run sheet about Cameron Avery, which I'm sure was the swoosh, where he slam dunked. Well, he didn't slam dunk. He took the long shot at a water cup and got it in. I thought that was pretty cool. And I think since then, that's just one of my little things. I like looking at the quirky. I like looking at the unusual, and I get a bit of a laugh out of things like that. So yeah, I think that Cameron Avery segment was pretty cool. But since then, of course, we've seen Cameron go on, almost qualify, get the Olympic standard for the marathon, and almost got it, which was an awesome task for him. I think he came back last year and ran the half, and I think he just missed the podium last year, if I remember rightly, but he stuck with the leading pack for much of the race. So it's also given us that little bit of there's another athlete that we enjoy and that we like to follow. So thanks for the fun, Cameron.
That's it. And Tara, what, you got a memory from the first show?
It's funny that Tony was just saying that about Cameron Avery, because as I was running Gold Coast, I was at the first water station and across the road, and this is in coming down towards SeaWorld, and across the road, you're at the almost 5K mark, and I'm like at the 2.5K mark, and I'm watching a runner go past, and he was actually doing the swish motion and all I could think of was Cameron Avery, so it was quite funny. But no, we've definitely grown a lot, changed the way we do things, not drastically, but I think we've become a little bit more refined, maybe. I really enjoyed listening to Mari Ma and talking to her as well. So yeah, it's been a bit of a change for us in the last 2 years.
And I guess speaking of refinement, we've brought Lucia in. Hello, Lucia. How are you this evening? I see that you've made it back home after your weekend away. So you're all settled back into Sydney now?
Yes, unfortunately, came back Monday afternoon and worked from home today because I didn't want to risk not being able to walk and getting public transport. So I played it safe and worked from home, but I pulled up better than expected, but we'll go into that in a bit more detail. But the fact that you guys brought me on as a refinement to the podcast, I don't know if that's the right term I would use.
Well, it's the term I use.
Yeah,
it's been a journey.
Refinement's not the word that I would have used. A bit of humour, a bit of realism at times. I think that's what Lucia's brought. Just that ability to go out for a run and go home with a strawberry thick shake instead. Which is the challenges that real runners face. Let's be serious now. When you're out there on doing a long run on a Saturday and a Sunday, and the coffee vendor calls as you run past them, or the ice cream vendor. I mean, they're the challenges that real runners face, and I think that's really what you've brought to the show, Lucia. It's been a joy having you on the show, to be honest. So it's been great.
And I think if runners want to see a real sense of me after a race, Tony's put a great clip on the Flying Runr Facebook page, and that is me down to a T. That's all I'm going to say. So listeners, I can highly recommend watch that clip.
It's also available on our YouTube channel. And we really like at the moment, we do have some numbers coming onto the YouTube channel. So check it out at YouTube.
Yep. And you talk about real runners, Tony, and one thing I can say is in the 2 years that we've been doing this show, we haven't stepped away or shied away from our key demographic that we were wanting to target all along, which were the real runners, the people who are the hard sloggers, who are at the back, who are having a crack at something that's hard, challenging themselves. And that's where I like to think that we've stayed along the way. We've had some very elite people on the show, but we've also kept it very real. We've kept it very focused on the things that keep running fun, and very proud in the 2 years that we've been able to keep that same philosophy in the show. We haven't talked too much about how to run faster or how to get a better PB or what shoes you need to wear to run faster or anything like that. Yeah, we talk about those things occasionally, but it's not the key focus. And I like that we've been able to keep it that way. Alrighty, so that's the intro, guys. So now it's that time of the week where we talk about the news. Tony, what's been happening around the world this week?
Well, I'm just going to talk about a couple of things, and obviously I'm going to share the Gold Coast Marathon results in a sec, but it's interesting. We all would have received our emails from Sydney Marathon or Abbott's. I think it was Sydney that sent them through, that sort of started talking about how many 7-star finishes there will be or potentially will be after Sydney this year. And the numbers are actually quite high. They're higher than what I thought they were. So at the end of the day, there's 3,426 runners at Sydney that will be going for their 7-star finisher accolade, right? So they're not getting the medal. So don't think you're getting a medal, but you're going to have the accolade of being a 7-star finisher. And out of that, 298 are from Australia, which once again, I find quite fascinating because there's only 580 6-star finishes from Australia. So more than half of our 6-star finishes are now going to be 7-star finishes. So Australia leading the way. So were you surprised by those numbers, Tim?
I was surprised that when you say that it was about half of the current 6 stars would do it, but it makes sense. The ballot, when I think back to the ballot, there's not many people that were Australian that I know of that didn't get into the ballot, and the people who didn't go in this year or didn't enter that are 6-star or on their journey to 6-star, they're okay. They'll come back another time and do it. But I think it was a lot easier because they were looking to increase their numbers. Everyone who got in or went in via the ballot generally got into the actual race. And I guess if you got 6, you're looking for that next adventure, aren't you? You're looking for another exciting major to run.
You're looking to put that number 7 on your back, which is what the merch out of Abbott's looks like. So, running around like the halfback in rugby league. So let's talk a little bit about the Gold Coast Marathon results.
Can we just quickly circle back on the number 7 for league? Just a reminder that it's the state of origin this week, and I'm just going to say New South Wales for the win. Sorry, Tony.
Well, you'll look a fool when the podcast comes out on Friday and the results are already known, won't you, Lucia?
No, I won't, because New South Wales is going to win. It's going to be a New South Wales series win.
Now, we are a running podcast, so I can edit that little bit out, Lucia. So, so none of us look a fool, but that's okay. Now, half marathon Saturday. Let's talk about that. So, I was at home. You guys were running it, so it was a very intriguing race to say the least. So, when I picked it up, we didn't start from the beginning, but apparently Brett Robinson took off like a bull at a gate. So, he had a lead of about 50 meters, but I think he also pulled out just after the 9K mark. So it was really interesting. But for much of the race, there was a pack of 4. And that pack of 4 was 2 Japanese, Kenya Sonata and Nao Sakuda. And they were accompanied by an Aussie called Isaac Hain, who has the name Ballsy on his bib. And probably too far behind, what most people thought was too far behind, was a gentleman called Andy Buchanan. And as many of us now know, Andy's become one of our favourite Australian marathoners, and his rise over the last 2 years, coinciding with this podcast, has been phenomenal. So, coming into that last stretch, about 2K from home, there's an apex that you turn, and right along that stretch, along the waterfront there was, the commentators were Steve Monaghetti, and they were saying, is he catching him? Is he not? And they're all over the place. But then he took the apex a little bit differently, took the lead, and was never headed from there. And the winner was Andy Buchanan, of course. Sonata came second and Sakuda came third. It was a record time in 1:01:08, and I think all the top, the 3 place getters were all either beat the previous record or were line ball with it. Now, Ballsy, as Isaac Hain is known as, came fourth, and I think he is now one of my most favourite runners, because anyone that can run a major as an elite with the name Ballsy on his bib,
he's ballsy.
He's ballsy. So I like him. He never gave up, and he only dropped off probably coming into that last turn into the finishing section. So that was the men's half marathon. The ladies was won by Leanne Poppiini from Australia. She ran a race. The disappointing thing, right? So I know one of the benefits of Gold Coast is that the ladies can have male pacers and they run within the mixed crowd. But from a television perspective, there was this group of blokes, right? And they're filming it as the lead ladies pack. And Leanne was in there somewhere, right? You really couldn't see her until as they were coming down towards the end, and the men around her started to drop off the pace. So that was probably the only disappointing thing. Leanne finished in 1:09:14. Second was a great effort from another Aussie, Caitlin Adams, who was 1:10.26. And then I believe Japan was third with a lady called Madoka Nakano. So once again, just a great race, but, from a television or a televised perspective, not as great as what it could have been. Now, I find the men marathon, I find the marathon event at Gold Coast really fascinating. The half marathon is usually laden with Australian wanting to have a crack. But then in the marathon, they are few and far between. So whether it's because the Aussies are using that as a bit of a launching pad to a later day, a later in the year marathon or a major, but the race was dominated by the Japanese in the marathon.
Tony, just on that, I reckon it's Sydney in 7 weeks is probably the issue.
Very possibly, yeah, very possibly. But it's not the first time, Tim. It seems to be that while we love the position of Gold Coast Marathon, it may not be the favoured perspective, because you've also got Melbourne. And last year in Melbourne at the marathon, we had the likes of Jack Rayner running it. We also had, I think, Andy backed up and won the half at Melbourne last year. Is that right, Lucia?
I think Jack Rayner won the half. Well, it's the half of the full Jack Rayner. I don't know if Andy did Melbourne last year. Ryan
Jack, Jack won the full, so I know that, but I thought Andy ran the half. I'm happy to be corrected. So, but in the male, in the marathon, in a time of 2:07:33 was Yuki Takai, Japan, Ai Ota, 2:08:31, and Ryona Takuchi was in 2:08:38. It was a match very much around the Japanese. And then in the ladies...
Sorry, just on that, Tony, the top 10 results were all Japanese, weren't they, for the men?
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much. But that also highlights how popular Gold Coast is for the Asian runners, I believe. So when you're looking at the ladies, Ethiopia come first with Tigist Yima at 2:29:27. Caroline Kalel from Kenya was second. She was in the category 40 to 44, believe it or not. Just thought I'd share that. And then we've got... I don't even want to try this name, to be honest. Zerahan from Ethiopia, who came third in 2:31:17. So they were the results out of the elite races at Gold Coast. I believe Tara's friend Madison got up in the female wheelchair. I don't have the results, or do I? Let me just check my screen here.
20 something.
Yeah, Madison de Rosario, 1:51:28. And the male wheelchair was won by Samuel Rizzo at 1:31:12. Both Aussies. So there we go. That's the news, Tim.
Yeah, more than 32,100 finishes in the events over the weekend. I think it was their biggest weekend of events or finishes ever. So another awesome experience. But yeah, thanks for that, Tony. That is the news of the week. So we're just going to do a recap, I guess, now on our weekend. We've been talking about it for so long on this podcast that we had Gold Coast Marathon coming up and the weekend that was. So let's start as we normally do, Lucia. Let's start with the Expo. I know you love a good Expo, and I know you were there on day one, just around opening time, as you always do. I might start with you and get your thoughts on the Gold Coast Marathon Expo this year.
Okay, in my defence, yes, I was there not long after it opened. That's because I had an early flight from Sydney. My flight was on time. My room wasn't available. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I might as well go to the Expo. You can't beat it. And one of the volunteers at the entry, he was an absolute hoot. So one of my friends, I can't remember which bib she was picking up. And he said to her, "Oh no, why don't you go in the junior dash line because that's more your age." Like, he was such a funny guy, just trying to get people to laugh. But it was really good because they had, so pretty much when you first walked in, they've got signs if you're doing the double, like if you got the VIP pass, whatever. Thank God I had signed up to do the double, so I could go to a much shorter queue. The general queue was very long, but yet it moved quite fast. And then once you do that, they check the timing chips on your bib. So for my marathon run, I had Crazy Woman on there, and when she checked it, she had to do a double take. I'm like, yeah, that's right, I actually chose that. And she just laughed. And then you go through to the ASICS area. I only bought one pair of socks and a hat from ASICS. Didn't buy any shirts based on Tim's recommendation. But it is actually one of the better expos because there's a lot of choice. When you buy too many socks from previous expos, because I was I went to the features stand. Yes, I purchased some more socks. He goes, "I know you from somewhere. I recognize your face." I'm like, that was probably from the event in Sydney. Mate, he goes, "Yeah, that's the one." So when you know a sock vendor, when they recognize you, probably a sign you buy too many socks. So I didn't see anything that was too crazy. Spoke with the guys, spoke with Mari, May, and Michael from Travelling Fit. Always great catching up with those guys. Then I also spoke briefly to the founder of the company Runly, which Tara and I both have their vests. He's such a down-to-earth guy. You could tell he was, I thought he felt overwhelmed being there just because it's not something he's used to. But I'm like, mate, your backpack, like your vests are amazing. I've got friends onto it. So he was really appreciative of the feedback. I think it's one of the better expos because you can do it in half hour if you want. You can zip in and out. It's very well organised. So a successful expo for me.
Okay. And Tara, your thoughts on the expo?
Yeah, look, we've been to that one now for many, many years. It's very similar to most years. I didn't think there was as many freebie give outs this year, but hey, I wasn't actually looking for them. We had the kids with us because they had to pick up their race bibs. So I think we ended up picking up 11 race bibs in total. So we just went past the normal queue and straight into the VIP queue, which was great because we took probably 20 minutes just picking up the 11 race bibs. Didn't buy anything at ASICS, only because I've got enough race shirts over the weekend. We stopped and talked to lots and lots of people. Probably took us about 2 hours to get around by the time we got where we needed to get to. Just chatting to people, had a chat to Michael Murray from Travelling Fit for a while. And then we did some volunteering at the Run the World tent. So Travis Island, who was actually one of our guests, can't remember which episode number, Google, have a look. But we did some work with him for 2 hours in his stand, and it was very nice to be able to volunteer and help out there. And I think it was a great expo. They do a really good job there.
Travis was podcast episode number 30, Tara.
Thank you, Tim.
And Tony, your thoughts on the expo? I know you love a good expo as well.
Yeah, we did a hit and run mission again, drove down Thursday night to pick up the bib. So the expo lacks a bit of punch around that time. There's not a lot of people around, I guess. So bib pickup was a breeze. We went into the 5K line because the guy said that's going to be your easiest because we were running the 5 and the marathon. The volunteers were enormous. I thought there was a bit more space this year. The walkway seemed a bit wider. It didn't seem a lot. It seemed, and once again, time of day, a little less crowded. And to me, and once again, I'm saying this because ours was a hit and run mission. I think we spent about just over an hour, missed out on free car parking by about 3 minutes, I think. So, but yeah, so it was hit and run. Didn't feel quite like Gold Coast previous, but there was a lot going on in my mind and whatnot. So I think, it was good. It was great to catch up with the team at Travelling Fit. It was popped in and said g'day to Travis from Run the World. He had no idea who I was, but anyway, it didn't stop me. And and also, there was a couple of very nice ladies who said hello, Tony, to me. And to those ladies, if I've met you before, I really do apologise that I didn't remember your name. But if you were just saying g'day to me because you've heard my voice a couple of times through this particular podcast, thank you so much for saying g'day. So that was it.
Yeah, we must admit, Tara and I ran into a number of people over the weekend that were listeners of the show and mentioned that they knew us from the show. So, again, to all those listeners that popped their heads up and recognised us, thank you very much. Apologies if we didn't always know who you were, but thank you very much for letting us now know who you were. Now, I guess, Lucia, you had some pre-weekend experiences as well. I know Tara and I took it pretty easy on the Friday and the day before the race, but Lucia, you did some ASICS pop-up stuff, I believe.
So I was quite lucky. I got an invitation to the ASICS Shakeout Run on the Friday morning to launch the Kayano 32 shoe. So there was, I think, about just under 100 people. So there was the ASICS ambassador, Adzi, that took us through a warm-up, and then another one of their ambassadors, Patrick McNamara, who's also a physio in Sydney, who's currently on a road trip around Australia. So he ran with me and another lady at the back. He did not leave us behind. So it was really good. Yes, I was just a 4K run. We ran over the bridge. So it was meeting at the race precinct. So we ran over the bridge. 2Ks, had a photo, and then came back. So it was really good just meeting other people. Also bumped into some of the other Sydney Marathon ambassadors as well. So we had breakfast. So it was just good chatting to different people, meeting different people from different run groups across the community. So I really enjoyed that. And then I had a Lululemon activation in the afternoon. It was a mobility session. Normally I'm not into mobility, I do have to admit, but that was so relaxing. The way he just got us all to kind of center, and the stretches weren't too intense. So that was so Friday was a fun day. There was some of the people at the ASICS event in the morning, they were literally they'd be at another event at 9 o'clock. There was an AG1 green one. But I'd like to say, because I also met Andy Buchanan and Leanne Pam. I can't say her surname.
Pompiani.
Yeah, so I've got to admit that I had photos with both of them Friday. So I'd like to say that I was their good luck charm, because both of them the next day did win their half marathon. And Andy, such a sweet guy. I was the first person that went up to him, because if our listeners don't know, if there's an athlete in which I want to have a photo with, I've got no shame. I'll go up to him and say, I want to have a photo. So I started the trend, and then heaps of other people went up. And one of my friends that was there, she goes, "Oh, I'm a big fan. Oh, who do you think's and Andy said, "Oh, who do you think's going to win the race tomorrow?" And my friend Meg said, "Hi, Meg, sorry, I'm calling you out on this one." She goes, "Deep down, I'm a Brett fan, so I'm really hoping Brett wins, but I like you too, Andy." He just laughed. He was such a good guy, and he was chatting with everyone. So ASICS did put on a really good event Friday morning.
Do you get to keep the shoes?
I did, yes. And
see, I need to get to those events where they're giving out shoes. I don't have enough shoes, and I need some more. So what's happening in Sydney? What shoes are they giving away for Sydney?
I don't know yet, but I'm hoping I'll get some insider info. So when I do, Tony, I'll keep you posted.
Get me on the list, please, Luch.
Tony, did you do any pre-race, pre-weekend experiences or anything like that?
No, I followed the socials of Lucia and saw her influencing out there, and that was enough to get me excited about the weekend ahead.
Yeah, and for Tara and myself, it was just the hot tub and the unit and just casual rest and relaxation, wasn't it, Tara?
Yeah, well, we did the Expo Friday. So we spent about 4 hours, I think, at the Expo by the time we did the volunteering and the walk around of our own thing. And, yeah, had a quiet Friday night, getting prepared for the Saturday.
That's it.
And-
now, speaking of, sorry, Tony.
Yeah, before the other socials that I was following was Coach Kel Walker, and it was good catching up with him while we were out in the run. But I noticed he was doing his influencing by getting a selfie with Team Ellis. So everyone's out there doing their influencing, Lucia. And so if anyone wants to follow me, I don't post anything like that. So
Yes, it was nice to see a lot of our friends at the expo. There was Cal, there was so many people at the expo, and a huge shout out to everyone that did come up to us at the Run Down Under or the Run the World tent and say hello to us. It was really nice to see everybody. It was really good to catch up with even people that we haven't met before that are listeners of the podcast as well. So thank you for that. It was good to meet you all.
All right, now let's get into the bit our listeners are waiting for. Saturday is the start of the racing, and the first event on the Saturday is always the half marathon, starting at 6:15 a.m. in the morning. Now, the three of us, Tara, myself, and Lucia, we got up early. We got out there and had a crack at the half marathon. So I might start with you, Tara. What was your experience like first for the half marathon? And then I'll come on to you, Lucia, and get your take on it.
I think the half marathon, because I actually went out and I wasn't even 100% sure I was going to be running. I had a cardiologist appointment on the Wednesday before we left. He had given me the clearance to run as long as I did what I was capable of. So I picked up all my race bibs in the hope that I would run. I went out on Saturday for the half marathon. I was feeling really, really good. I really enjoyed it. I ran, I think, probably most of it up to about maybe 7 Ks, do you reckon, Tim?
About 8 or 9, I think it was when
8
you
or
first
9,
stopped.
okay. Yep. So it was just, I ran most of that and then I started walking, and I think that's when Lucia actually caught up to us. But it was a tougher race for me than what I was not expecting. I knew it was going to be a tougher race because I knew I had to push it hard to get back in time for the 10K and the 5K. But very, very happy with how I went. It was a 2-hour 40 half marathon, so that's definitely the fastest I've been for quite some time. I mean, since I've had the surgery for this pacemaker, I haven't run that sort of speed for a half marathon. But no, I was very, very happy with it. On-course support was amazing. There was lots of water, lots of fix, lots of support. Volunteers were amazing. Couldn't fault it. And I love the half marathon course there. So, yeah. And I had Tim by my side the whole way.
Yes, you did. And Lucia, what were your thoughts and recollections of the half marathon?
So I stayed in surface, and it's the same story every year. People bitch and moan about the tram. So I went, so where I was staying, I was kind of in between 2 tram stops. So I went to the one that was just slightly further, which was maybe a 5-minute walk. We missed because I met up with 2 friends, Nadine and one of our listeners, Victoria. We missed 2 trams just because they were absolutely chock-a-block. So with the third one, we just squished them. We're like, who cares? So word of advice, if you're staying on the tram line, give yourself ample time. When I say ample, I mean give yourself a good hour and a half, because you're going to miss 2 or 3 at a minimum. So get there. I was feeling good because Saturday was the day that I was concerned about, more so for the half, just to get a good half, to give myself a bit of a buffer for the 10K. But again, it's that first uphill, it gets me every time. You think, it's not too bad, but it's actually, the half isn't a bad course. I'm getting more and more used to it. The bit I love is that last corner when you come in, that last incline, and then it's all downhill. But one thing that I don't know if you saw, Tara and Tim, but as we were coming up past that, up on that hill, I reckon I saw about 4 or 5 people get on the ground getting drips.
So that was just after Marine Parade. So just as you come off Marine Parade and then back onto the Gold Coast Highway, it was a bit of a carnage zone there. It looked like a war zone, to be honest. Yep.
Yeah, so word of advice, make sure you take on hydration at every single stop, because it was getting a bit hotter at that point of the day, but it's nothing beats when you start running past all of the running groups, their tents, because I saw a few people I know. So, and then that turn, is it me or did the blue carpet seem shorter this year?
Yeah, it's short. It was only about 50 meters. Normally, I think it's about 100 meters.
Yeah, so I actually enjoyed the half. Like past years that I've done it, I haven't, but this year I did, because I was surprised with how I went, because I came in the time range I wanted. Still, like I would have liked it a little bit faster, but I had more time at the end than what I thought I was going to have.
So speaking of time, I know we were always time pressured. The race started at 6:15. The 10K race started at 9:25. By the time you get over the start line, you lose 10, 15 minutes. I know, Tara, we had about 20 minutes to spare when we got over the finish line. What about you, Lucia?
I think I had very similar because I had a very good friend, Nadine's husband, Laurie. God bless him. He deserves like a Order of Australia. He was my bag person on the weekend. So he was right at the finish line as he coming out of the chute. He was right there with my stuff so I could quickly change top, head back over. And then he was there at the end of the 10K for me as well. So because of him, I had more time.
Yeah, no, it's good. All right, well, let's jump in and talk about the 10K. And again, the three of us ran the 10K. The 10K started at 9:25 a.m. It was a lot hotter to run the 10K, I thought, than it was to do the half marathon. Very still, not a lot of breeze either. So let's start with you, Lucia, on your thoughts for the 10K.
The 10K, I did run walk for all my races. Got to about the 4K at the 10K mark, and I'm like, bugger it. So I just ended up walking pretty much most of it from there because I'm like, because the focus for me on that Saturday was get the half done, do a good half time. So that was the focus, got that done. And so in the middle of the 10K, when I decided bugger it, I'm just walking. I'm sending friends messages left, right, and center. I'm just like, I might as well catch up on messages because I could hear my phone beeping so much throughout the half. I'm like, perfect opportunity to catch up. I like the half because it does a slightly different loop than the 10K, but the last bit is obviously the same. And then at the end, and then as we were coming past the running intents of the 10K, I stopped at the one which I knew Sharon, a very good friend of the podcast. So I stopped and chatted with her for a moment or two, and then I kept going. I do like the 10. I do like the 10K because I wasn't worried about time for that one, but I could feel a blister coming on, so that got me concerned a bit. So yeah, I'll go into that in a bit more shortly.
Cool.
Lucia,
And Tara,
what did your photos look like for the
Shocking.
10K?
Absolutely shocking. I'm not buying any of the race photos.
Okay. So none of those poses, did they make
I need
it?
to check because we'll get this. So as I'm coming into the finisher shoot, I see Tony and Sharon. So naturally I stop for a chat. And there's a photographer. I try to do a jump shot. He goes, no, you need to pose. So I'm doing like a Hulk Hogan. I don't recall seeing that. Like I haven't checked since yesterday. So yeah, he made me do like a show muscle pose.
I was worried when you were doing the jump because I could just imagine if I was doing that after running a half and a 10 that my legs would be cramping up. And I did not want to see you cramp up. Just 100 meters from the finish line. I'm just looking at your photos now. I can't see your hog shot. So
yeah, I think they're still downloading and processing some of the images at the moment because I know all of mine are all out of sync and out of order, and they're all a bit out of whack, the order, and some of the photos don't make sense either. I've got photos of other people, not me, so give it a day or two. Now, Tara, we ran the 10K with our son's girlfriend and her brother, and it was their very first race. So we got to race with newbies who had never run a big distance like that before and never been involved in anything as big. Do you want to talk about our race experience, I guess?
Yeah, well, we were very lucky. So similar to Lucia, our son Patrick, he brought our T-shirts or our singlets with our bibs on it. So we just stripped off singlets, put new ones on with the new bibs on. He brought his girlfriend and her brother down. So they raced with us for the 10K. Because I've never raced that sort of distance before, we were just running with them, having some fun, just enjoying our time. It was just a case of getting through that in time for the 5K, but we had lots of time. I think we did it in about 1 hour 30 or so, and they enjoyed themselves too. It was very, very hot though, and I take my hat off to both of them for running that sort of distance when they haven't ever run a race before. So, they're young, they're capable, but it was a very hot day, but it's a nice course. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yep. And we then, I guess, moved on. We had about a 30-minute break until the start of the 5K fun run. I'll call it a fun run rather than a race because that's what it is. And it started at 11:45, which I know a lot of people were worried about that time of day running. But Lucia, from someone being south of the border in Sydney, Tony, you were involved in the 5K race as well. You ran it as well. So I might start with you, Lucia, south of the border. How did you find the 11:45 a.m. start and just some quick memories of the race?
So I did the 5K with my good friend Nadine. God love her. She's like, we'll do what we have to do to get you through the 5K. So we just walked it. We had a chat the whole way. It was a bit hotter, but at that point I had a cooling towel on me from about halfway during the 10K. So I just kept on putting water on that and just stretch it, and just squeezing that out and putting that around my neck. So that did bring the body temperature down. But they can't, unless they make it earlier, I don't think there's more that the race organisers can do. Like in terms of time, and you can't predict the weather. It could go one of two ways. Well, one of four ways in Goldie on race weekend, and the water stations, they were still going as we were going through. I still had my hydration vest on, and I still had fluids in there. So I was constant. So I was constantly ensuring that I was drinking at every aid station. So yeah, nice walk.
Yep.
But I did change shoes though, because I'd worn carbon plated shoes for the half and the 10, and I wore the Kayanos for the 5K.
Yeah. And Tony, your recollections of the 5K?
Yeah, it was a nice atmosphere. Fun run is the perfect way to describe it. And to me, it was so I did about the first 2.5 just walking with Sharon. I wasn't overly focused on using it as a shakeout or anything. I just wanted to get moving, but I was stiff, so she gave me permission to run the remainder of the way. So I did, and that felt actually really good. Lucha, I actually thought we started to see the precursor for Sunday with the water. Some of the water stations were not manned effectively during that 5K. Some were really short of water, and of course that's the first time that they've tried to do 3 races on the one day, and so there's reasons for it. But if you are only running the 5K, I think that would have been quite a disappointing thing. I didn't find the weather overly bad, but not on the Saturday anyway. But and I don't want to. It was a 5K event, so the biggest challenge I had, I think, was when I decided, Sharon, can I run? And she said, yes, you can. Off you go, young man. It was, everyone was walking around us. So the biggest challenge I had was to try and get around people and dodging, and I didn't want to be a pain in the backside. But it was a fun race. I think I went 39 minutes or something, which, once again, time wasn't part of it. It was just about just trying to get some muscles moving. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And Tara, I noticed you and Tony were both wearing your Flying Runr shirts on the 5K and stood out very clearly. But what were your thoughts on the 5K?
Yeah, no, the 5K was fun actually, and I do call that the fun run. I know there is people, I think the winner actually got in around about 14 minutes something or other. So I will definitely not discard it as a real race. It's definitely a real race, but I like the 5K because it has got the families there. It's got the charity runners. It's got all those fun ones. So about maybe a couple of 100 meters in, I think we've come across Tony and Sharon. So Tony and I were walking side by side with our Flying Runr shirts. it was quite
Trying
good.
to block the path we were, so people had no choice.
No, it was really quite a lot of fun.
Guerrilla marketing.
Yeah.
And to the ladies that said g'day to me and saying she was listening to the podcast as she was running past, she was a friend of Claudia Stevenson. She asked me who I am. I said, I'm Tony. She said, I don't want to talk to you. No, she didn't say that. But yeah, to that lady, thank you. Always makes my day to be out on a run and people are saying, I'm listening to your podcast right now. So it was pretty cool.
It was good, yeah. No, the 5K was good. We didn't do it as fast as Tony. Tony took off from us. He's lucky I've had enough of this Team Alice thing. And we were actually just taking it nice and easy. I think ours was about 47 minutes or something, so it wasn't fast. And yeah, just had some fun on course. It was really, really nice. They did run out of water, or not maybe run out, but they were getting a bit low on it. But I wasn't overly concerned about it by that stage because I had been hydrating throughout the other races. Lots of fun, nice medals, fantastic medals this year.
Yeah, and it's about this time we've got to do a shout out to Jed because one of the bits of enjoyment I had on the weekend was actually parking myself near the finishing straight at the 10K event and getting to see, Team Medalist come through, getting to see Lucia come through, but also getting to see Jed come through. And Jed, if you gave me a look of hate, that's how much you enjoyed that 10K. No matter how often you told me afterwards, I loved it. The look on your face said you didn't, young man. So.
All right, guys, I'm mindful of time, so I want to just quickly talk about Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, post-run recovery, particularly Lucia and Tara. I know, Tara, you and I, we jumped into the hot tub. We got some hot therapy into the legs, stretched them out in the hot tub, and took it easy, got our weight off our legs afterwards, came back upstairs and just basically stretched out and ate some carbs and some more carbs, yeah?
Yeah, and lots of protein to repair the muscles that had been, those micro tearing. So there was lots of protein involved and a bit more carb loading. Lots of hydration, hydration tablets. I use zero hydration tablets just for the sugar content, and I find that they rehydrate me very, very well, get those electrolytes back into me. Had a nice early night, ate maybe more pasta and chicken that night, and had a very early night. Yeah.
And Lucia, how did you do your post-race recovery?
So I got more fluid into me, water and electrolytes, and then I brought my massage gun and my TINS machine from Sydney, so I had a good half hour, like alternating between those again, just to let the muscles relax, and to get the blood flowing. And then I met up with my run club for a pasta carb loading dinner that night. But the weird thing was, we went to an Italian restaurant. I wanted lasagna. They'd run out, and this was at 6:00. So then I went for the good old spag bowl. I asked for Parmesan cheese. Guess what? They ran out of that too. It's like, I'm like, you really want to piss an Italian off, don't you?
Well, we went to Amore Ristorante with Kay, Jed, and Terry. They had plenty of lasagna, although last week our guest, Mickey, said lasagna is too heavy for before race day. So I chose not the lasagna, but the spaghetti something or other. There was the chickeny spaghetti. And it was magnificent, and they kept coming to the table and say, would you like some more Parmesan? So it was a very nice evening.
Yes, so we all got to bed early. We all woke up the next day very early, all nervous, doing all of our usual pre-race routines. And we're on the start line, all four of us, for the marathon. It's starting at 6:15. So I might start with you, Tony, as a bit of a recap on the marathon from your perspective.
Yeah, actually, I had a horrible night's sleep Saturday night, and I often do before a marathon. And but on the line, I felt really good. I spent the first I was caught between two strategies. I was thinking to myself during the week that maybe I'd do the first 10K with Sharon and then try and bring it home with a bit of strength. But then the old ego got in the way and said, no, I'm going to go out and I'm going to have a crack and then I'm going to hang on. And that was probably the worst strategy I've ever chosen, because when I look at, so I ran the first 1K with Sharon and Sharon's walk run. And in hindsight, I should have stayed with her probably for at least another, to get the first 5 done, to just get some time in the legs. But needless to say, I'm going to share some stats. So last year, I was going for beating for sub 5, right? So, and I had a really good training block. This year, I didn't have as good a training block. I didn't get the base that we had last year with Tokyo in the legs. So last year, my first 5, I ran that in 32. So this year, I ran the first 5 in 35, considering I ran the first 1K with Sharon, right? So I'm sitting there or thereabouts at the pace I ran last year for the first 5. At 10, I'd ran that at 1 hour 10. Last year, I was 1 hour 3, so 7 minutes different. At the half marathon last year, I was at 2:27. This year, I was at 2:37. So I'm 10 minutes behind the pace. And then I ended up being about 20 minutes behind what I did last year at 5:48 for the full marathon, but really felt it in that last, once I got to 30K, I was thinking, oh no, it was hot. It was hotter than what I thought it would be. When you look at the temperature and you think it's going to be 21, and we training summer at 32, 34, 35 degrees, 21 doesn't sound a big deal, but it was. So, yeah, it was a slightly tougher race than what I thought it was going to be, but I felt good on the start line, and I think that's what's going to get me back time and time again. How you feel on that start line and how you finish at the end of the race, I think, is always. I came home strongly. I was able to run past Terry and Jed, who were cheering me on with the beer in their hand. Thank you, boys. I was able to run past them, which I didn't do last year. So that was a little bit of a bonus too. So that's my marathon.
There you go. And Tara, I'll go to you next.
Yeah, look, I after the 10, about halfway through the 10K the day before, I'd actually decided I don't think I'll do the marathon the next day. I didn't want to over push my heart. I wasn't unwell. I just didn't want to overdo things. And then I woke up on the Sunday morning and I'm like, I actually don't have any pain in my legs. I don't have any problems. I'll give it a try. So I got to the start line. I actually took my hydration pack, and I am very grateful that I did that, because by the second water station, they had run out of water. So because it was a hot day, as Tony said, there was very little water in the second, third, and fourth water stations for us back of the packers. I am very grateful for my Runly hydration pack, because that kept me going for the rest of the race. I really enjoyed my race. I ran probably about 7Ks, and I thought, do I pull off here or do I keep going? Because I was close to the finish line then still, and I thought, I'll keep going. I'm feeling good, all right. I'll keep going, and just kept going and walked the whole entire marathon. Came across so many people and so many friends, and I actually made so many more friends on that course that it was, really, really fun. I got to 32Ks, and a very good friend of ours and a good listener, Ange, she met me with my banana, and she walked the last 10Ks with me, and she is an absolute gem. She brought along an absolute array of everything that I could have possibly needed for the last 10K of a marathon. She did it for me, and she kept me going, got me going, and it was probably about 37Ks at the top turnaround of the marathon. I actually had a wardrobe malfunction, is the best way to put it, and my inseam of my pants split completely. So you can imagine the chafing that happened in between my legs. And here's Ange with the Vaseline, on with the Vaseline at the next aid station, just trying to get rid of it. But she is an amazing person who got me through that, and I can't thank her enough. I ran into some of the IMP runners when I was running. Huge shout out to Sarah. She's one of Jai Strugnall. You'll know Jai from one of our other previous episodes. Run into Sarah throughout the marathon, and she was walking with Jai probably maybe 40 Ks, and such a beautiful person. So it was lovely to see Jai on course and Sarah together. And then we saw Terry and Jed at the same point, obviously, as Tony did, and it was great. Terry actually had a cold beer in his hand, and I'm like, that looks really, really good. So poor Terry, he lost his beer as I went past. So I took a photo and had a good swig of his beer, and then he told me off because he made it all frothy. But yes, drank his beer. This is at 41K, so I'm okay to do that. Then running past the tents, fantastic. Ran past Travis in the Run the World tent. He also had a beer, and he also lost his beer because, well, I was still thirsty. So, and kept going. And then I saw Tim and Patrick, who had finished their marathon together, high-fiving me, and I just felt on top of the world. Finished it at just over 6 hours. But I'm happy. I'm surprised I was able to do all 4 races. So, yeah.
So this is a lady who had pacemaker surgery on her heart 9.5 weeks ago, who couldn't run or train or do anything for 5 weeks after surgery, and then was able to back up and do the 78.3 kilometers at a slow pace the whole way through, but was able to get through it. So there you go. Well done, Tara. You're inspirational.
Thank you. I don't recommend that to everybody who has just had pacemaker surgery. I can do it only because I've got that base foundation. So please don't think I didn't have my cardiologist's approval. I was good to go.
Yeah, it was an incredible event, an effort, and one that I would think you're absolutely crazy for even attempting, but well done. And can I just also do 2 quick shout outs? One is to Reese. Once again, Reese, we all know Reese. Reese is like the mother hen on a marathon course, I found. He picks up stray runners and he helps them get home, right? So he's just this, he's just a wonderful bloke. Awesome to see out on the course. Kel Walker was out on the course, and it was good to run probably 2K with him. So he was struggling with an ITB band issue, but did the job. And I just really want to do a shout out to Coke, because coming through Surfers Paradise, I popped into a servo, a convenience store just before seeing a certain someone on the course, and I bought a nice cold bottle of Coke, and that got me through probably the next 10K. Mind you, it was a 500ml bottle. I certainly didn't want 500ml sloshing around in the gut. And then as we're coming into that last stretch, I popped into a servo and bought a little 250 can of Coke. Race organisers, can you get some Coke on the course, please? So, yeah.
Tara forgot to mention and thank Brian. Brian, you are a legend. Brian gave me a water bottle during the race, and also to Tim and Patrick, I believe. Thanks, Brian, you are a good friend. Thank you.
And Lucia, I know it wasn't the race you wanted it to be, but do you want to describe your Sunday, please?
So Sunday morning, I was all good to go. I only missed 2 trams, so I was lucky. Met up with a colleague from work because her and her husband, they were doing the marathon as well. For her, this was her second marathon. Her first one was 11 years ago, which was Goldie. So she was nervous. And then I went into the starting zone where I saw Team Ellis with Patrick as well. So it was really good starting off with you guys. So I stuck to my run walk intervals, I started crying like a baby about the 5K mark, just as we'd come back from around SeaWorld Drive. Couldn't tell you why I was crying. Then just before the 8K mark, I made the decision, can't do it. I mentally did not have it in me. And I'm like, am I going to make it worse for me if I keep going and putting myself through hours of misery? So I made the call. I got to my aid station and I said to the lady, I'm like, where's the how far is the closest tram station? She goes, oh, and she was telling me, and I just started crying to her. She goes, it's all right. Don't worry. It's okay. So I made the decision at that point to pull out. But I waited until the chaser paces were coming past because Peter, a good friend of the podcast, she was one of the 6 hour 40 chasers, and she knew that at some point I'd probably catch up with her. So I thought I wanted to tell Peter, don't worry, I'm pulling out. So waited a few minutes until she came along and I'm like, Peter, I'm done. I can't do it. She goes, Luch, why don't you just walk with us for a bit? I said, Peter, I can't. She goes, as long as you're all right, that's the main thing. So thank you to Peter for checking in on me, because I know when Peter saw Victoria at one point along the course, Peter said to her, Luch has pulled out, but she's okay. And so then I had Victoria trying to find me. So it wasn't an easy decision, and it was one I didn't take lightly, but I know ultimately it was the right decision to make, because I think it was the mind telling the body, don't do it to me. I just can't do it. And Sydney is the goal race this year. So now I just need to refocus and put the attention on that. So whilst I was bitterly disappointed, because when I got back to where I was staying, I found my friends Nadine and Laurie, and I just cried into her arms because I was so disappointed in myself for doing it. But as I said, it was the right decision, not an easy one, but in the end, it was one that I'm glad I made. But I'll be back next year, Goldie. Will I do the quaddie? Don't know. Definitely the double. So wasn't my race on Sunday, but still considering what I had achieved on the Saturday, happy with the weekend.
Yeah.
And Luch, we're very, very proud of you for actually listening to your body, listening to your mental state, and being aware that by pushing on is actually going to be doing you more detriment and harm than good. So you've actually done the right thing, and you're doing what we all say to do on this podcast. Listen to your body, listen to your mental state, and don't push what you can't do, because you're going to do yourself more harm. So well done to you. I'm very proud of you.
Luch, you were looking so strong when I came across you on the marathon. I think, what were we, about 500 meters from the start line? We've done our own little fist pumps, and you were looking so good. And I thought to myself, Luch has got this. It's all over. She's there. She'll nail it. She's just focused. And then when you jumped out at me at Surfers Paradise, gave me a bit of a heart attack. And I think my first question was, why are you here? Totally confused.
She did it to me too, and I'm just like, what? But it was great to see her. So.
I'm okay, guys. I'm okay.
So, Tim, you ran by yourself, well, with our son. So tell us your recollection of the race, because it's different to what we've all got.
Well, my recollection was all through the eyes of Patrick, our son. He's 19, doing his very first ever marathon. And got to give credit to the kid. He said a year ago, last year at Gold Coast, that he wanted to run the marathon. He put in place his own training program. He had the experience of us and the Flying Runr to listen to. He chose not to do that. He chose to do it, develop his own research, do his own study into what he needed to do to train and run a marathon. He put in the effort in the gym. He put the effort out on the training track. We'd join him on Sundays with his training. He'd finish training. He'd do a 30K run and then go out to work 8 hours standing on his feet all day. And to give him credit, on the race day, the first 21 Ks, he breezed through that nice and easy, big smile on his face. He's going, this marathon stuff, it's good. I'm feeling really good. It's hard to believe I'm running a marathon, Dad. It's all going well. It was. And then sort of 30Ks came along and it started to hurt really a lot for him. You could see that he was in pain and that he was starting to struggle a little bit. But not once did he complain. Not once did he say he wanted to stop. Not once did he say that this is too tough. He kept on going. He kept on moving forward 1 foot at a time, sometimes running, sometimes jogging, sometimes walking. But we got there. And probably the proudest moment of my life was when he crossed that finish line, watching him come across there hand in hand with me and big arms up in the air. And, you know, we ran into Rob De Castella literally as we crossed the finish line. And Rob gave him some very positive reinforcement of what he'd done, you know, some encouraging words around doing hard things is good for you. And you can beat anything once you've done something hard like a marathon. So real positive experience for us. I got more joy out of that than I would have got if I ran it by myself. I really enjoyed the experience. And it's a shame that Tara couldn't be there. Tara hadn't done the training to be able to keep up with us and made the call to say, no, I'm not going to hold you boys back. You go off and do what you do. And we were able to have that experience together. So I'm forever grateful for that, to be able to share that with him. But wish you were there, Tara, with us. But yeah, fantastic.
He had a pretty good guide, Tim, and I shared that with you on the Sunday night at the celebration. But just one word of advice for Patrick is that when your dad is recording you in the finishing straight, don't keep looking back at him. Just head down and go for it, right? Don't wait for him. Just go for it.
We had a deal. We had a deal that we said along the way that we would finish together, and that we start together, we finish together. So he wanted to do the big sprint finish. He had fuel in the tank. He wanted to sprint to the end. Unfortunately, his idea of a sprint after 42.2 kilometers and my idea of a sprint after 78.3 kilometers are two totally different things. So, but I did notice my pace was at 4.01 minutes per kilometer on my Garmin for that final sprint down the straight. So it's still a quick pace.
Patrick, deals are always made to be broken. So just putting that out there.
No, he's now in the marathon club, so he's our newest member, and couldn't be prouder. We couldn't be prouder, I guess, Tara. You'll be me as well. So I'm mindful of time, guys, but it is our second episode, so our second birthday episode, so we can be a little bit longer if need be. But just very briefly, we all caught up on the Sunday night. It was the first time, essentially, all four of us had been together in the one spot. And we got to catch up socially, but we also caught up with many other friends and other people in the running community. I think all up there are about 40 people, 30 to 40 people there that came to our little shindig there. I counted around the room that there were about 11 six-star medals in that room that night, which would have been the biggest gathering of six-star medalists on the Gold Coast that weekend. So I'll put that out there as a little credit for us. Anyway. But it was a good night.
So, Luch, seeing that was the first time that you'd physically met me, share your disappointment with the listeners.
I was just in awe. You exceeded my expectations. But Tony, the same question for you. How did it feel for you finally meeting me in real life?
Luch, you were everything I thought. And that video that we put out after the end of Saturday, where you showed how fabulous you were feeling around, I think that's Lucia in a nutshell. So yeah, it was lovely meeting you. And the good nature which you took everything. So just for those listeners out there, one of the last photos we took was the four of us together. Three of us were wearing the light blue finisher 42K shirt. And there was a certain someone that wasn't. And I totally unintentionally made reference to the fact of Lucia's orange shirt. And my wife almost killed me. So
she did.
but Lucia did give a vow that she would get me back. So
yes,
I won't say when it will happen.
when you least expect it.
Yes. So it was another fun weekend for us all. It didn't always go to plan, and that is marathon running. We didn't all get the times we wanted, and we didn't complete races, but that is marathon running. But for me, overall, it was still another fantastic Gold Coast weekend. The weather was fantastic. The crowds were awesome. The events were organised superbly well. Okay, some of them didn't have enough water, but the general setup and organisation of it was well done. It just gets bigger and bigger every year. And again, it's one event that we highly recommend. If you haven't done the Gold Coast Marathon weekend before, do put it on your calendars for a year to come up and give it a crack. But we are running out of time, and it's that time of the week where we normally would get a tip from me. But as I'm hosting this week, I'm going to flick it over to you, Lucia, for the tip of the week.
Well, I thought to myself, what tip can I give this week? So this one is very relevant as to what I've just experienced in Goldie over the weekend, and it's about DNFing or if you decide to pull out for a race. So it's a sign that like pulling out of a race can be one of the toughest things a runner can do, but it can also be a turning point in a runner's journey. So I just want to share some tips and hints of pulling out a race. It's okay to do it because ultimately you've got to listen to your body and you've got to listen to your mind and make sure after the race you hydrate and you fuel. If you're injured, go get that checked out. But also when you make that decision to pull out of a race, don't be angry straight away. If you can still do a cool down, whether that be a short walk or something like that, just to avoid the stiffness. I think one thing looking back, this is something I didn't do. Be kind to yourself, because dropping out of a race doesn't make you less of a runner. It takes strength to make a smart decision when things aren't going your way. So definitely be kind to yourself. In the days after pulling out of a race, debrief with yourself honestly, but definitely not emotionally. So, for instance, what exactly went wrong? Was it pacing? Was it fueling? Was it mental prep? Was it avoidable? And don't be afraid to talk about it, because I was lucky. I'm surrounded with some very good friends immediately after it happened, and then later on that night with Team Ellis and with Tony, just talking about my reasons for it. So even though I was my own worst enemy, but sharing your story, it can help reduce the shame, and it can help normalize as well that DNFing, it happens to everyone. It happens to the elite. So if you do need to do it, it's okay. Just learn your lessons from that. So I think one thing I took away, may have mentioned this on last week's episode, this was my worst training block. And I think that potentially that had something to do with it as well. So learn from it and improve it. Don't reflect on it too long. Like, I'm still reflecting a bit on it now, but it's been in a good way. So I'm going to have vengeance on the GC Mara next year. I'm going back and I'm going to do it. So ultimately what my tip comes to is, don't be ashamed if you have to pull out of a race, especially if there's something else you are striving to do. It's okay.
Yeah,
and that's
100%. 100%, Lucia. You got to listen to your body. If it's not the right day and you don't make it to the end, it's okay. There's always another race. There's always another challenge. So 100% agree with that. And it's one that we should all listen to. Now, this episode's about to end, but Tara, what is happening on next week's show?
Excellent. Thanks, Tim. So next week, we're going to share our tips on how to maintain your training program and rituals when you're traveling. So whether you're traveling for work or pleasure, it can be hard to maintain a training program and to do the things that you are supposed to do to stay on track. So we're going to share our advice on how to maintain those rituals without impacting your time away so you can still enjoy it. We'll share with you our knowledge gained from many, many years of traveling, and whether it's finding somewhere safe to run or even just finding the right foods to eat, understanding the local rules about what you should be doing when you're out and about running, we're going to discuss it all. So as we keep on saying, we are the only podcast or 6-star major marathon medalists. So we may just know a little bit about traveling for a marathon or two. And as always, it will be another fantastic episode not to be missed.
There you go. Thanks, Tara. Yeah, I think we might know a thing or two about traveling and running. So we will talk about that next week. But guys, on that note, it's time to wrap things up. I've had a lot of fun reminiscing about the weekend and reliving the experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly, I guess. But we've hopefully inspired some of our listeners to come and join us next year on the Gold Coast as we do it all over again in 12 months' time. We love making this podcast for you, our listeners. Let us know what you think. Message us on Instagram, Facebook, or on email at happyrunning@flyingrunner.com. We'd love to hear about your experiences at the Gold Coast this year as well. You can, as usual, can watch us on Spotify, YouTube, or listen to us on Apple, Amazon, or wherever other podcasts are broadcast. But in the meantime, guys, it's been great seeing you all again, even though I only saw you a day or two ago in person. Have a good week ahead, guys. Remember, every step counts. Keep running, and we'll see you next time on the Flying Runner. Until then, happy running.
Happy running.
Happy running.
Go the Blues.